For almost all of human history, a single, unseen strike in the tall grass was considered an absolute, agonizing death sentence. There were no paramedics. There was no synthetic antivenom. There was no emergency transport. If an ancient hunter was bitten by a viper in the dense, suffocating jungles of Pleistocene Africa, a neurotoxin would immediately begin shutting down their respiratory system. Within hours, they would paralyze and suffocate while fully conscious. It was a brutal, mathematically certain end. Except, that's not what happened. If snakebites were so instantly lethal and early humans lived their entire lives walking barefoot through habitats completely infested with them, how did our ancestors survive long enough to become us? The answer changes everything you thought you knew about human evolution. Because the only reason you are sitting here today, capable of understanding these words, is because of snakes. In 2006, an evolutionary anthropologist made a shocking discovery that completely flipped our understanding of human biology. The incredible, forward-facing, high-resolution, full-color vision that all primates shared did not evolve simply to help us swing from branches or pick ripe fruit. It evolved for a much darker reason. It evolved specifically to spot camouflaged vipers. Your brain literally grew larger to build highly specialized, rapidly firing neural circuits designed specifically to detect the exact diamond patterns, scales, and slithering movements of a snake. Every time you flinch at a sudden rustle in your backyard, that isn't just a random reflex. That is military-grade biological security, burned directly into your visual cortex by millions of years of survival. But here's the terrifying problem. That ancient security system is far from perfect. Modern hunter-gatherer tribes living in the remote rainforests of the Philippines today give us a chilling, unfiltered glimpse into the ancient human past. Even with eagle-like vision, a staggering 26% of men in these modern tribes have survived a python attack or a venomous snakebite. Getting struck was a daily, inescapable reality for our ancestors. So, what actually happened the moment the fangs pierced the skin? You might assume they just collapsed in the dirt and waited to die. But modern humans drastically underestimate the desperate intelligence of our ancestors. They were not waiting to die. They were actively fighting back. And they were experimenting. When scientists recently examined the fossilized dental plaque of Neanderthals living in a cave in Spain, they found something completely unexpected. Hidden deep inside the ancient, hardened tartar were microscopic traces of yarrow and chamomile. These are plants with absolutely zero nutritional value. They are extremely bitter and highly unpleasant to eat. So why were ancient humans consuming them? Because yarrow is a powerful natural astringent that slows massive bleeding, and chamomile contains heavy anti-inflammatory properties. Long before the first hospital was ever built, our ancestors had discovered a primitive, working pharmacy hidden in the dirt. When an ancient human was struck by a viper, the tribe didn't just panic. They sprang into action using an intense, locally mastered knowledge of botany. In the Amazon basin, tribes used the crushed roots of the Aristolochia plant. In sub-Saharan Africa, they stripped the bark of the strychnos tree. These weren't just random leaves tossed onto a wound out of desperation. Modern pharmacological studies have completely validated this ancient practice. Many of these primitive botanical remedies actually contain active chemical compounds that naturally bind to destructive venom proteins, slowing down rapid tissue necrosis and buying the victim precious, critical time. But that's only half the story. Even the most potent ancient herbs could not stop a massive direct dose of neurotoxin from a king cobra. If the venom was that fast, the ancient medical response had to be even faster. And this is where human survival relied on sheer, unimaginable pragmatism. Archaeological evidence of early tribal practices reveals a terrifying reality. In desperate situations, survival meant sacrifice. If a hunter was bitten on the finger or the toe by a highly venomous snake, they didn't have the luxury of waiting for herbs to take effect. They brought down a sharpened obsidian blade and severed the digit completely. It was a brutal, traumatic choice, but an intensely effective one. Chop off the finger, save the hand. Chop off the hand, save the life. They also utilized primitive tourniquets, binding limbs with tight vines to trap the venom in one extremity, fully accepting the loss of a limb to protect the heart. Then researchers discovered something even more fascinating about the human mind's role in surviving venom. The psychological terror of a snake bite is so intense, so overwhelming, that it can send a victim into a state of fatal shock before the venom even reaches their vital organs. Extreme panic drastically increases your heart rate, pumping the lethal toxin through your bloodstream at a highly accelerated pace. To combat this, the village shaman would perform elaborate, intense rituals. They would chant loudly, cut the wound to bleed it out, and apply packed charcoal to the skin. For decades, modern science dismissed this entirely as useless, primitive superstition. Chanting couldn't possibly cure a neurotoxin. But here is where it gets incredibly interesting. We now know that activated charcoal is highly porous and can actually absorb certain toxins, trapping them before they enter the bloodstream. But the real magic was in the ritual itself. The shaman's confident, authoritative chanting triggered a massive physiological placebo effect. It grounded the victim. It dramatically lowered their soaring heart rate. It slowed the circulation of their blood. The ritual literally bought them physical time to survive by utilizing the raw, untapped power of their own belief. But all of this leads to a massive biological question, one that puzzled evolutionary biologists for decades. Animals like the honey badger and the mongoose have specialized cell receptors that make them completely immune to cobra venom. A honey badger can take a direct bite to the face from a lethal snake, pass out for a few hours, and wake up completely fine. If humans and snakes have been locked in this deadly, intimate dance for millions of years, why didn't we just naturally evolve that exact same biological armor? The answer is deeply humbling, and it reveals the true secret of our species. Evolving absolute venom immunity takes millions of years of heavy, continuous casualties to force a genetic mutation into a population. Humans bypassed the slow, brutal grind of biology with intelligence. We didn't need to wait a million years to evolve a genetic mutation in our blood because we evolved culture. When one ancient human figured out that tying a vine tight around a bitten leg kept the venom from reaching the heart, they didn't just survive the night, they told their children. And their children told their children. That specific life-saving knowledge spread from camp to camp, across continents, and through generations. We survived the deadliest venom on Earth not through biological immunity, but through the seamless transmission of knowledge. Our true antivenom was our community. Every campfire story shared under the stars, every stern warning given to a child about walking into tall grass, every carefully passed down herbal remedy was a microscopic victory in an evolutionary war against the most lethal predators on the planet. Today, you can walk into a brightly lit pharmacy or a modern hospital and be instantly cured of things that would have mercilessly wiped out entire ancient bloodlines. You live in a world of supreme safety entirely disconnected from the primal food chain. But the legacy of that ancient, terrifying war is still buried deep inside your mind. It's the reason the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you see a coiled shape resting in the shadows. It is the reason a simple rustle in the grass can make your blood run cold. We never actually stopped being afraid of snakes. We just became smart enough to survive them.